I'm Richie Hardcore, and I'm very passionate about how we can combat New Zealand's mental health statistics. I'm an educator and keynote speaker on masculinity and violence prevention.
And now I've arrived here. I'm on a journey helping people share their stories of mental health.
We're on our way to meet Eddie Murphy. Not that Eddie Murphy, not the famous comedian in the United States, Eddie Murphy, but world famous in West Auckland, Eddie Murphy. He's a jiu-jitsu coach, he's an all-round good guy, and he's had a really long journey understanding his own mental health, and in that journey he's learned a lot of really great lessons, I think, that he can share with us.
Hello Richie, how are you, man?
Good, nice to see you.
Nice to see you.
Thanks for having vulnerable conversations with us.
My pleasure, my pleasure. So welcome to the People's Gym, the home of Tukaha, West Auckland.
This is sick. Still teaching kids?
Yep, absolutely. 5 days a week these days, so.
Really?
Yeah.
So you grew up, because did you grow up out west?
Yep. Proud Westie, grew up in Titirangi. I was a bush baby, so yeah, this is my home. It's such a diverse place to be from. You get people from all walks of everything, so there is no one way for a Westie to be, but I am very much a bogan, so all black everything.
Including your gear here?
Exactly.
This is an extension of jeans and a black jumper?
It is essentially the same thing.
Do you think there's an unfair stereotype about West Aucklanders?
No, I think we worked hard to earn that stereotype, to be honest. I think we put a lot of hard work into that. But it's also one of those ones where if you're not from here and didn't grow up around, Westie bogans and stuff, it might seem a little aggressive and intimidating. It's just people going about their lives.
You have talked to me, prior to this about the fact that you started experiencing poor mental health really, really young. What did depression look like when you were 8 years old?
That was a really major part of my life, was trying to navigate my way through depression, which would lead to anxiety, which eventually led to me suffering from symptoms of psychosis. So I'd hear things that weren't there, and depending on how far down the rabbit hole I'd sort of gone, it could get quite bad.
Psychosis is a heavy term. Can you explain what that means?
It's got very specifically different ways of manifesting in people. For me, I was hearing things, and it didn't start off as like hearing instructions to do bad things. It started off just purely me hearing my name. It was always a feminine voice, and it just kind of slowly moved on from there. Like once you start hearing things and realizing that it's not something that's occurred out in the real world, that just lifts the anxiety up, and you just sort of start spiraling until you're not sleeping, you're not eating, you're not looking after your body properly. That's when it will hit you really, really badly. And it's sort of the worst part was getting instructions to crash my car while I was driving it, and that was when I parked the car up, and I was just like, okay, we're not going to drive for a while.
Have you ever figured out what was the cause of, your depression from such a young age?
Well, my mother was extremely unwell throughout my childhood, and she sort of went through like the worst that the mental health system has to offer. So I was kind of, from a young age, really aware of mental health problems and what was being done at those times to deal with them. I was scared really early on as to what could possibly happen to me. If I got sectioned and had to go and get put away for a bit, like that sort of thing really terrified me. there had to be medical intervention with me, with the instructions while I was driving. My mum immediately got me in touch with the crisis team at the Taylor Centre, and they sent a crisis worker out to come and see me at my flat, which was awesome. Best part of all of that was one of my flatmates just sat with me through it. He treated everything as normal as it could possibly be, so that I didn't feel too ashamed about it. I was able to access CBT, which is cognitive behavioural therapy. That's when they started me on a drug called risperidone, which is an antipsychotic. And that was probably the single most effective medical intervention for my mental health that I've ever had.
Do you still use prescription medication, or do you manage your mental health through Jiu-jitsu and training and
Jiu-jitsu is absolutely a pillar of my sort of self-care to stop me from getting unwell. I used to feel very chained to my medication, and that made me really resistant into taking it. It wasn't until I kind of got over that whole I'm chained to this little white pill for the rest of my life, I hate it, blah, blah, blah. Whereas I was like, okay, well, actually, that little white pill has kind of made it so that your life is bearable now, and it's put you in a place where you've been able to work past some really difficult things. You're not chained to it. You just kind of need to take it every day if you want things to keep going well. I did jiu-jitsu without being medicated for 5 years, and I did really, really, really well up until I just completely spun out and came to the realization that I did need medication.
So it's a combination?
Absolutely, yeah. One won't work without the other.
Was there a trigger that led to that spiral after 5 years of...
I got injured and I couldn't train as much as I had been.
How would you encourage someone who is experiencing depression or anxiety?
For me, it was all about balance, finding an equilibrium. You have to give your body what it needs to get yourself to a point where you can start asking for help. When you're depressed, it's incredibly difficult to see positives like that and not look at things negatively. One little thing, and for me it was finding Brazilian Jiu-jitsu and becoming part of Tukaha. I found my place, that perseverance mentality. It's just don't give up, man. Just keep showing up. You just got to make this little incremental steps, just that 1% each time. And it adds up, and suddenly a year down the track, 5 years down the track, where I'm at now, 7 years down the track with BJJ, it's just, I couldn't picture my life without it now. It's that important to me. I've lost an extraordinary amount of friends to suicide in the last, 20 years now. And I would have been one of those statistics, and I'm so glad I'm not.
I'm glad you're not too.
Thank you, my bro. Thank you.